Another movement that we could really observe is that about the green shipping issues, environmental issues. Every shipping lines try to make an image on the green shippings. They have, for example, there's initiatives of IAPH on the environmental shipping index. This is an index where a ship will be measure what kind of what level of index that they are fulfilling the environmental requirements. And for example, in Hamburg, once that a ship is fulfilling this index for a certain amount, we will give also a discount for a port use. That is also implemented in Antwerp and in Rotterdam.
Because I wanted to ask if this green shipping issue is this a real issue for the port? Because I feel like it's so much blah 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 blah, but I don't know if for the companies, for the port and port terminal shipping lines, is this really something serious? Do they take it seriously?
Some of them take it seriously because it's, more or less, it's about the image also of the corporation. And if you see sea transportation is also not a non-polluted transportation at all. How many tons of crude oil that we need or the bunkering that we need for operations, and also once that you are at the once that the ship is berthing at the port, they still produce air emission also for the port cities, for example, the residents who are living nearby the port, and when the issues become more seriously, so the port operators, for example, HPA, have to take care also about that. Because the people would like to live nearby the port because it's the nice view of the port and those kind of stuff, but then they would not like to have this air emission and wouldn't like to clean the windows every two weeks, for example, because it's turned dark because of the CO2. So here is a figure also from the report that you would see how much the vessel types is occupying in the world fleet. For example, if you see the world fleet numbers here is growing quite rapidly, and because the vessel that has been ordered is now delivered. And that's why we have the overcapacities in the shipping industry as well. And if you see here, we will have an oil tanker. Oil tanker is almost constant, but and dry bulk is also quite high up. But the container ship, from here to here, it's I don't know how many times more than the in the past. And that's why we have really this situation. Then we have the inland waterway, which is most of the time not mentioned as a transport mode. But once that you consider the water transportation, inland waterway is also a very competitive alternative to the road and rail. Yeah, because if you see how many rivers there are in Europe, it's also a good alternative for that, for the road and rail. It's also safe, and especially for dangerous cargo, because if it explodes somewhere, it's not in the middle of the road or the rail track in the residential areas, and it could help also decongestioning on the road network. It's competitive also because of the low cost on the freight rate and high payload. Do you know the word payloads? The payload is actually the indicator of indicator defining how much you could load cargoes on a unit. For example, if the payload is high, then it's good for the vehicle type. And we still observe that the inland waterway have so much possibilities for improvement because nowadays inland waterway that we have is a natural waterway, but actually we could also create a network which is fitting to the trade routes. But then it requires also lots of investment again, and that is also one reason which makes inland waterways still slowly develop in this area. So multimodal transports is actually the principles that we follow since I think I've studied 15 years ago. And we try to achieve the optimization on the intermodal, or what they are sometimes called multimodal. Nowadays also with synchromodal or co-modalities. There are many terms for these principles, but what does it mean is just that the definition by the UNECE that once that you move a cargo and using more than one transport modes for a load unit, for the same load unit, without moving goods themselves when changing modes, meaning that you put or stuffing a container, putting it as a load unit, this container that you have has been put on truck. Then you unload it at the port, and then without unpacking this container, transport it directly, move further on a vessel, and then also at the end of the transportation chain the same. Then you already fulfill this definition that this freight is multimodal. And the key word is that you should use the standard load units, because the process already somehow standardized, and you could use or swap the vehicle quite efficiently. And it claims that once that you know how to plan these multimodal transportations, it would be the best possibility in utilizing resources, because you know that, okay, for this distance, maybe the best that you would use road transport. For another distance, it's the vessel, which is better and more efficient. And how to optimize this transportation in the chain is very difficult. And there are many attempts and efforts on this area. The multimodal transport in characteristics, I will not read them all because we already talked in the beginning, type by type, but this is one of the summaries that maybe give you a better overview on that. And here we have the comparisons on the environmental impact, on the carbon footprint from different transport mode. If you see for the same metric tons of freight, air cargo is the most, no? And then following by truck, and following by train, and the ship is the least one. So we should have more like green airplanes and stuff. Yes. And here another example, one pair of shoes from Hong Kong to Rotterdam, only one pair of shoes, it produces 100 gram CO2, but only from store to your home, it produces already 1,800 grams if you use car. If you use public transport, maybe it's another value, but if you use car, then you buy more pairs of shoes. Yeah. Why we do need multimodal transport? Because it's one of the key instruments in managing supply chain. In supply chain, we need accuracy in time, more reliabilities, and more flexibilities. And by using these concepts, you could really respond to the needs in specific phase of the supply chain. And we have also some drivers or some situation that we have to think on this multimodal transport. For example, the scale of operations. Sometimes it's a big scale, sometimes it's small scale. You have to be flexible to the demand, for example, and the issues on the 24/7 operations that everything has to be run around the clock to offer on the market, or the use on the terminals in the multimodal chain so that you can optimize the buffers where you could use these, for example, the warehousing for cross-docking as the inventory warehouse for you rather than having inventory on your premise, for example. Or use of the intermodal load unit so that it could be best fit to the client's need. For example, if you are transporting the garment, maybe you could use a hanging garment container so that it could be hang already in the productions, and then once it's on the premise of the retailers, they just need to take out and then go for display. You will see very small letters this is the source that I use. There are many books that I use for the lectures, and if you would like to go for further in details, then you could go to these sources and have a look. Last slides, I would like to give you some examples of what is already been developed in the multimodal transports. These are the examples of the load units that are implemented. Some of them are funded by the European Commission, for example. The telebox that you have these looks most like the double box of a 20-feet container, but it's also not a 40-feet container, but it's also not two 20-feet container. It's somehow specialized for a specific cargo. Then you have glass safe on train. Sometimes you have to transport glass, but it's very vulnerable. How to protect the glass once transporting on train. Then we have another sector, which is innovative ICT solutions. As I said at the beginning, that once that you would like to implement or apply these multimodal transportation, you need a computerized system, you need automatizations, you need those kind of intelligence. And therefore, there are many projects or many innovations that, for example, efficient terminal operating systems that calculate directly where's the slots and how much cargoes could be loaded and unloaded at once. Or you have, for example, automatic ID for intermodal chains that you just put on a cargo load unit so that you could track also these units along the chain. Here also intermodal transport planning tool, which from PTV is quite a famous traffic management company that you said, okay, how much cargo do you have, from where to where would you like to go, and then they calculate options for you with many aspects, cost, fuel consumption, whatsoever. And that was it for the first section. I hope you get a little bit more insights on the basics that we have here. And in the afternoon, we will come back at 1 o'clock, and we will talk about port at transport nodes in the logistic chain at 1 o'clock.